It's 1924. You're taking your family on a weekend trip to the big city. For every generation before you, this would have been a difficult train journey or a multi-day journey by horse. But not for you, because you just bought a car. Suddenly, you could travel anywhere at any time. It was the ultimate freedom, and car ownership took off around the world. But all of this was only possible because cars had just become affordable. Well, one car did, the Ford Model T. When it launched in 1908, it cost just $850, around $30,000 in today's money. But just a few years later, that price was cut in half, and by 1924, it had fallen all the way to just $260. But the Ford Model T was by no means a special car. The real breakthrough was the factory it was made in. This place was an efficiency machine. Raw materials came into the factory and finished cars left. Instead of cars being carefully handcrafted on a workbench, a constant flow of chassis moved through the factory 24/7, and parts were added continuously. This genius idea took the total assembly time from 12 hours down to just 90 minutes, with a new car leaving the factory every 40 seconds. We modeled the entire thing in great detail to show you the genius design of the Ford Model T factory and the incredible engineering that went into mastering mass production. To understand just how monumental Ford's impact was, we need to look at car factories before the Model T. Normally, cars would be assembled on a stand by a team of skilled craftsmen. Almost nothing was automated, and a lot of time was spent simply walking around the factory and bringing parts to the car. Any delay in a single task meant that the other workers had to wait to do their task. The whole process was slow and expensive, and a typical car company like Cadillac could only make around 2,000 cars each year. To make cars affordable for the masses, they'd have to be produced in enormous quantities, and no one understood this more than the Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford himself often gets credit for turning his factory into an assembly line. But in reality, the idea came from one of Ford's production engineers, William Clan. At the start of 1913, he visited a meat packing factory in Chicago, which was known to be one of the most efficient factories in the country. When he was there, he was amazed by what he saw. The animals were hung from a rail on a ceiling and moved to various stations around the factory, where they were cut up, processed, and packaged, ready to be shipped out. The whole process was simplified down to the most basic tasks and spread across multiple workers. This gave William an idea. Although this process worked for taking apart an animal, perhaps it could work for putting together a car. He took the idea to Ford, and they immediately began testing it out on a relatively simple part, the flywheel magneto. Normally, a team of 30 workers would each assemble entire magnetos at individual workbenches. With this setup, around 800 magnetos could be made per day. Ford got rid of the workbenches and installed a single long steel table. The workers were arranged in specific positions, and instead of assembling a complete magneto, they were told to only perform a single task and slide the magneto onto the next person. Since each worker was just repeating the same task, it brought the total assembly time down from 20 minutes to just 13 minutes. To speed up the process even more, Ford replaced the table with a conveyor belt that moved at a constant speed. This caused the slow workers to speed up and the fastest workers to slow down, balancing out the line and keeping everything in sync. In just a few months, Ford went from producing 800 magnetos a day to almost 3,000. This way of working was so successful that Ford immediately began trying to use it for more complex parts. The engine, for example, took around 10 hours to produce and had to travel over 1,200 meters around the factory as it moved from one machine to another. Ford knew that arranging these machines in a more logical order would massively speed things up. But at the time, this was simply impossible. Most factories were mechanically powered, meaning a large drive shaft at the center of the factory provided turning power to the machines through a complex system of pulleys. Since each machine required a specific amount of speed and power, they had to be placed near a pulley that was geared to that specific speed. The result was that heavy machinery ended up on one side of the factory and more lightweight machines ended up on the other side. It was completely unoptimized, and workers wasted a lot of time simply moving parts around the factory from machine to machine. To get around this, Ford decided to make the entire factory electric and set up an enormous power station at the factory which produced 34 megawatts of electricity. With this, Ford could get rid of the heavy, dangerous drive shafts and simply run cables to power each machine individually. With no restrictions on where the machinery could be placed, Ford rearranged the engine assembly line, and the total travel distance was reduced from 1,200 meters to just 90. Throughout 1913, Ford went crazy, creating new assembly lines, installing custom-made machines, and simplifying jobs down to their most basic tasks. The radiator, which was made up of 95 thin metal tubes, had to be fitted and hand-soldered by a skilled worker. Ford built a machine that arranged the metal tubes and passed them through a furnace to do the soldering automatically. Parts that had to be machined on a lathe first required the workers to screw the part into place and unscrew it when it was finished. Ford redesigned the lathe to have an automatic clamp, which reduced the duration of each task by more than 90%. Thanks to all of this optimization, the total amount of man-hours to produce a single car went from 450 hours to just 150 hours. But there was at least one downside to this new way of working. The work had become so monotonous for the workers that more and more people started to quit. New workers were constantly having to be hired and trained into their role, which started to hurt the overall efficiency of the factory. Henry Ford saw this and decided to do something that would be unimaginable today. He announced that Ford would raise the daily salary for all workers from $2.34 to $5 and shorten the workday from 9 hours to 8 hours. More than 10,000 people turned up the next day to apply for a job, and Ford never had trouble losing workers again. This was headline news all over the country, and it was hard to see it as anything other than a positive. Nowadays, it's easy to imagine how a story like this can be sensationalized and manipulated by the media. That's why I'm happy that Ground News is sponsoring today's video. Ground News is a news comparison app and website that shows you how each news story is being reported across the political spectrum. It pulls together reports on the same story from outlets around the world, while showing you useful context like political bias, ownership, and how trustworthy each source is, so you can quickly understand what's being emphasized, what's being left out, and come to your own conclusions. For example, Texas just voted to keep the law that requires the 10 Commandments to be displayed in public classrooms. The coverage details show that left-leaning outlets reported on the story far more than right-leaning outlets. And if we look at the headlines, we can see that left-leaning outlets used words like force to emphasize that the 10 Commandments rule is mandatory in schools. Right-leaning outlets were much more positive about the decision, framing it as a victory for religious freedom. But how do I know I can trust any of the reports? Well, all of the data on Ground News is analyzed by 3 completely independent news monitoring organizations, and this shows the trustworthiness of each publisher reporting on the story. Ground News also gives you personalized data, helping you keep track of your own blind spots and biases so you can get closer to the truth. Subscribe to get 40% off the unlimited access Vantage plan by scanning this QR code and by going to ground.news/primal. The link is in the description. Again, it's ground.news/primal to see the full picture. In order to make the Model T available to the masses, Ford had spent the entire year rearranging machinery and setting up assembly lines with one goal: make as many cars as possible. All of the fixed costs, like the factory and machines, stayed basically the same no matter how many cars they produced. And so the more cars they made, the cheaper it would be per car. It may seem obvious now, but at the time, none of this had been figured out, and Ford was really pioneering the idea of mass production. By the end of 1913, Ford had more than doubled its daily output, and the price of a Model T had dropped by almost $200. But although Ford had optimized the assembly of thousands of parts, the final cars were still being assembled at stationary workbenches, and this quickly became the bottleneck for the entire production. And so, in 1914, Ford set up the holy grail of factory efficiency: the final assembly line. The idea was simple. All of the sub-assembly lines would feed a constant supply of finished parts into the final assembly line, where they would be mounted onto the chassis as it moved through the factory. The entire assembly process was studied and broken down into 45 individual steps, assigned to 140 workers and spread out across the line. Here's how it worked. Basic chassis would leave a sub-assembly line and enter the start of the final assembly line, where they would get pulled along by a chain-driven sled. As the chassis moved down the line, workers added the front and rear axles, and soon after, the gas tanks, which were conveniently rolled down a chute from a sub-assembly line above. Further down the line, the engine would be dropped into place from an overhead rail that fed the workers with a constant supply of finished engines. The dashboard, steering, exhaust, and pedals would all come together in a quick sequence of tasks. Finished wheels from the sub-assembly line would drop down holes in the floor, and 2 workers would attach all 4 wheels to the car. The radiators were stored in a raised platform above and would slide down a chute ready for the workers to install. For work that had to be done underneath the car, special creepers were made that could clamp onto the chassis as it moved. This meant that workers could lie down and work on the car with both hands as they got pulled along. After 44 steps, the cars would be driven off the assembly line under their own power onto another assembly line outside the factory. Just above the final assembly line was the body shop. Here, all of the body parts were stamped and assembled into a lightweight piece and moved outside to a platform. The finished chassis would move under this platform, and the body would be lowered on top, completing the entire assembly in just 90 minutes. By the end of 1914, Ford had set up 3 identical assembly lines to raise its daily output from 450 to well over 1,000 cars a day. This increase in production allowed Ford to drop the price of its touring model to just $345 by 1916. But no matter how efficient the factory became, there was still one huge bottleneck. Although the overall labor costs per car were low, most of the cost per car went into buying materials, which were still being purchased externally. Ford realized that if it could control the production of every part, right down to pulling the material out of the ground, it would save enormously on costs and guarantee a constant supply of parts. Ford purchased iron ore mines in Michigan and Minnesota, coal mines in Kentucky, forests for wood, and its own railroad. Ore from the mines was delivered into the factory using its own trains, where it was transformed into steel using furnaces powered by its own coal. In just a handful of years, Ford had taken complete control of basically every material needed to make the Model T, and it brought the total material cost per car from $590 to just $190. Ford had mastered the art of mass production. Year after year, it kept producing more and more cars, finally reaching a peak in 1923 when it produced more than 2 million and its price dropped to just $260. By this point, almost everything inside the factory had been optimized. But Henry Ford had one last idea, an idea that was so significant it still benefits us to this day. He recognized that the health of his workers made a difference in the overall quality and output of work. Someone that was well rested and refreshed would come to work and do a better job. At the time, normal factory jobs still required long 10 to 15-hour shifts with only a single day off on Sundays. To give his workers more rest time and to ensure that they came to work more refreshed, he introduced the 5-day work week. Workers would now make $6 per day, but only work 40 hours a week and have 2 days off at the end. He literally invented the weekend, and it worked. Ford saw a noticeable increase in productivity, and after this, almost all industries adopted this working schedule, and it's why we still have it today. It's hard to overstate just how impactful Ford's ideas were on our society. Today, almost every manufactured product like TVs, phones, refrigerators, and washing machines are only available in large quantities and at low prices because of the incredible engineering that happened inside this factory. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.